So hey everyone, this one is really special because I'm going to talk about how to become a Google developer expert. So I'm Yash, I'm a Google developer expert in web and maps, which means that I do have some kind of experience or understanding, as well as I post a lot about web technologies or could be Google Maps. And I would say so that this was very much related to the work I was doing, and I didn't know like what was Google developer expert, what does it mean, like what are the perks, like why should I be a Google developer expert. And I think that this video is about it, like firstly like what it is, and the secondly like how can you become a Google developer expert. So yeah, let's go for the first thing, which is like what does a Google developer expert do, what does he like, how is he different from like not being an expert, like why should I be it. So a Google developer expert would be like someone who communicates a lot about these technologies, which could be like open source technologies like web, or it could be like Google technologies, could be like Flutter or Google Maps or Android. And he is effectively an advocate for these technologies. He is basically someone who people listen to or want to listen to because of the way that he deals with, maybe he makes blogs, videos and so on, and he gets benefits from Google. Like if you are traveling from one to other place and you are making a talk, then Google is paying for your trip, and basically that he's they're paying for your hotels and stuff like that. And you are making your recognition, you are doing this for your own career and you are uplifting your career at the same time. Google is helping you to make your career better. I mean, why shouldn't one do it if like that's the whole part about it, that's the whole cool deal about it. So I would talk about like how did I became a Google developer expert, and more of it was like I used to give talks about like accessibility and web and all the other stuff. I have a very, I would say, knack in web knowledge, and that's around like April 2023. This was a time when I was a Google Summer of Code mentor. So I had already cleared my Google Summer of Code as a contributor and became a mentor. And I believe that was the first time I heard about Google developer expert. And there was a Google developer expert who was like another Google Summer of Code mentor as well. So he had GSOC as well as he was GDE. And I was just thinking about it, this sounds interesting, but why should I become a GD? And I just nudged it off. Like I thought about it for a bit, and I thought that I do not know the advantages. I do not know what it is. I shouldn't be like collecting all the G or like Google stuff like Pokemon. So that was like the thing that came in mind, and I was actually making talks at those moments. So I was pretty much doing the things that Google developer expert does from like 2 years prior. But at the same time, I was just thinking about why should I work on this? Why should I not work on this? What should I do? So then comes a time when I'm just making more blogs. So I was making this new Google sign-in API, and how do we do it with Svelte? So I was seeing that in Medium, no one had a solution for Svelte, which is like a new and upcoming more component-based framework rather than React or Next, which are like more widely accepted and more like widely they are like de facto and people are using it. So we were using Svelte at that time, and I just wanted to make a blog about it, and that went well. It was published to the JavaScript in English, who had like 2.6 million readers, and they like loved the blog. And that actually had me like, yeah, I'm doing stuff for the Google open source, let me just keep on doing my stuff. And I'm not worried about GD because I felt that that's like internally somewhere I felt that that's very hard and I won't be able to crack it and stuff like that. So I thought that yeah, let's leave it, and maybe that we can just do the stuff. Like no one is like stopping me from making good Google API stuff. So there was media track capabilities API. A Googler named Francois Buffo, who is in Google developer relations engineer, talked about it, and I was thinking about it like, yeah, I should make an example for it. I should make a camera app that does this progressively enhanced solution of like showing a zoom level, because that's what I read from the Google developer blogs. And then comes a time when slowly I was just making more posts, and maybe there was a time when this LinkedIn had this top voice on web development, something like that. Those were like easier to get, so I just went for them. Then I had this twist of events where I was in San Francisco in US to give a talk. This was more about Google Summer of Code rather than GDE. It allowed me to connect to Googlers. It allowed me to explore a few places. There's this like whole journey on stuff. But the part I want to care about is I also gave a talk there. I also gave a talk at this Silver G stage, and I just really loved it. The reason I'm talking about this is because this is something that a Google developer expert might also do on a different occasion inside a Google office and be making a talk, and people would be listening about the expertise that he has over the web or he has over Android, and how does he or his company do things. And this is a really great way to connect and communicate with Googlers. Yeah, Google Summer of Code is nice and it does it like annually, but GDE, you have so many events and you can just do it so many number of times. You can make a dev fest event where there would be so many developer relations engineers. And that's like what really excited me about it. So coming over that, then I was just talking to this very cool guy, Adam Argyle, and I was just talking about CSS with him, and we just drafted a progressive motion blur at that time, and that was like around November 2024. So yeah, just closing to a time when I became a GT. So I became a GT just this year on Maps and Web, and I just wanted to talk about like how was the journey was effectively like at a time when I became a GD. It was like well deserved and it was like well due, and something that was like could have been done a lot earlier if I would have just applied for it and went for it. I just thought that it would be more difficult, but it wasn't. The interviews are more like you are talking with them about the things that you love to do and how you do them. And maybe if you have like a basic understanding of most of the things and you try to be curious and you try to understand things, you can definitely crack that interview. Before that interview, there is a stage where they actually assess everything. They try to see how many blogs do you make, what kind of content do you make, and stuff like that. If it aligns with the Google perspective, do you make content around Chrome or do you make around other technologies like Android or Flutter? And based on that, they could judge you and make sure that you go through the product interview round where you give the product interview. So I would be discussing about that, but let me just go in a journey order. So I had like more examples, like another HTML CSS based canvas, and at that time I was also very much intrigued by what Mozilla is doing, and I believe that played a huge role because Mozilla is somewhere I got to contribute a lot about web, and I learned a lot, and maybe a lot of those learnings came in handy. So it was that I coded or I documented with the best coding practices around 378 MDN articles. I'm still to this day very much I love to make contributions to Mozilla or MDN web, and that was like a time when they really loved it. And that was somewhere I believe around the time where I was thinking that yeah, I have this web knowledge, maybe I should just try for a Google developer expert program, and I should just try to get involved with it. And I just kept doing more and more. So I was just taking a look at this project Fugu API, and that's like what gave me like Google has this GDE role in web, and one of that is like Fugu. Project Fugu is also like one of the subdomains of like expert knowledge where you can actually apply to, and you would be like maybe matched with Thomas Steiner or some of the other Googlers, and they would be taking your interview. So I had this case where the contact picker API was something. This is all open source, and these are like the newer APIs that are like part of Project Fugu. And I just made a very good use case, and we used it at our company, and also with the badging API. And I thought that yeah, maybe we should show it that like how can this be done. And I just kept doing it and doing it. I kept making more and more Chrome extensions and other things, and that was like I am already doing the work. I am well past my due date. I am like someone who is, as I said, like in one of my previous videos, I am mending my own garden, letting the butterfly come rather than chasing a butterfly, which is like Google Developer Expert. I was before becoming a GD already doing the things that a GD would do, and essentially was uh, I would say granted that I would become a GD with like all due processes, like taking the interview and everything as it was. But I had this special recognition previously because of the stuff that I was doing previously. And that's like, how do we even get involved? Like these are all open source repositories. Like if you go and check the open source Google explainers or the Mozilla MDN, anyone can just feel free to start contributing, just start about it. So I can just go to like maybe, and I will just show you a real example. So I will just go to developer.mozilla.com, and maybe I can just start there, and I will tell about Google as well, because I know that this is more of a Google developer expert. And yeah, so I had this like, what can I do here? So there are like things like blogs. You can actually just join their Discord server and ask that how can I make a blog, or you can just check out the JavaScript APIs and you can just ask that is there something that's like missing, and there would be like issues around it, or it could be like something that has like stuff that could be improved. So you can actually see these issues or stuff also. Like I would just try to find out good issues on GitHub PRs. I would just try to go to, maybe there is called something called Open Web Docs, who are also creating these issues which are on newer web features that should be made and documented here. So they also very much closely work with MDN, and maybe I would just try that. The other thing is I could just go on and see that explainers by Googlers. I would just see the new explainers that are coming, and there could be a case where I would find in GitHub that yeah, something nice exists which I can maybe contribute to, and this is like the GitHub repo, and there might be some kind of a cool project idea, or there might be something like which I would want to contribute to, or there could be like Android guide which is like in markdown, which is on GitHub, and I could just see that which is the official kind of documentation there, not this one, but the one by Google. So I would just try to contribute to that, and I would just try that, yeah, what is that open source repository on GitHub which is like maintained, and there is a Google developer expert around that topic, and I would just use that to my advantage to get like an upper hand. And yeah, I just contributed more to the SVG and web and stuff, because web technologies is like everything about web, right? So there are multiple things that I was doing, and also I was involved in the Chrome AI API. So there is these new prompt and other AI APIs, and I just created an example. This was like, hey, I would just create a story, and you can just finish my story by crafting, or and I can just use prompt API for it. And that was like how it went, and this went really well. And that was a time where I had some bit of a recognition there with Googlers, and I was actually being helped by Googlers, like, yeah, this is something that rarely happens. It happens only, I would say it can easily happen as well if you just put up the work. So there was this captions on the fly Chrome extension that I made, and it was loved, because these are things I saw clear opportunities in front of me, and I thought like, yeah, why should I not just try to help in a way that I can. I was also doing the Google Summer of Code stuff, which is like around Earth, around maps. I did not become a Google Maps GDE directly. That was first after becoming a web GDE, but that happened eventually because of this relation with Google Earth technologies with the Liquid Galaxy. So yeah, let's just keep moving. So then something happened. A Googler reached out to me and asked like, why don't you try for becoming a GDE, and that would be really nice. And I believe I was second time flying to US to the Google I/O, and I believe if I was a GDE, my trip would have been covered by Google's. That would have been so epic, rather than me paying out for the whole trip. And I was thinking, okay, that's nice, I can pay for my stuff, I can just go, maybe because I am making my own career there, that is like a once in a life opportunity, stuff like that. So yeah, I kept on contributing and making sure that I could make that upper hand, or I can just make that kind of recognition internally. And I believe we can just skip to the great part. Yeah, that was the Google I/O, and that was the time where I was reached by Una, and she mentioned like, you should try for the GT, and if you want to try, you can just let me know. And it is actually a program where a GD or a Googler has to refer you. So it's not like you can just apply directly to that. You would have to apply, but also you can apply directly, but you would also have to write down that which GD or which Googler has referred you, and that actually creates a difference, because then that internally they can just check with that, and that's just one line of thing which you have to take definitely permission of the other GD or Googler, that yeah, can you refer me, or you already have connections and you have made your own acquaintance, and then you say, can you refer me. So I actually took help from a GDE, Alfredo, and he was really nice. He is a GDE in, I believe, Flutter, if I'm not wrong, and another, I believe, Android. We'll have to make sure, but yeah, he is amazing. So maybe because we have this platform here, so why not I check Alfredo. And he helped me out a lot, because Alfredo, this on Dart and Flutter specialization, and he helped me out a lot because he was a GD before me, and he knew a lot about how GD stuff goes, how you have to make your own recognition by making those blogs, making those videos, and eventually you would get to a point where they would have your product interview. And then yeah, I had this kind of like, my one of my demos was loved by Una, and then I got to meet and got to know about this GT thing. And then I thought, okay, I'm again and again hearing about this GT. I do not know what to do with it, but I know that I have to now apply. That there is like nothing else that I should be doing rather than applying it. And then I applied to it. I was matched with Francois before, who very luckily I had pleasantly like worked with, not directly, but on a single GitHub repo where we were talking about cross origin storage, one of the web APIs. You can just check cross origin storage GitHub. It will just pop up on the first or second links. And he was also contributing to that, and we were just throwing out ideas and how we can make it better, and throwing out really good crafted web explaining ideas. And I was just pointing out more to the UX things because I have more experience in UX. So yeah, user experience. So yeah, and then came a time when, yeah, I got this mail that I have a GDE, that I have got this myself into a GD program and I've become a Google developer expert, which was like long overdue and well deserved at that point. So I would mention to do it the same way. Just make sure you are doing all the efforts that are needed, make all the blogs and all the posts that you can do, make sure that you have like, yeah, I genuinely feel good about web, so I would love to do more things about web. And that's like you can, and maybe about like Flutter, maybe about Android, that like totally depends on you and what you want. And there are like multiple, I believe, Firebase, and I believe there are multiple categories of expertise that exist, and you can take part to it. And then you would have to select the subdomain. So in web, I believe there is like AI, there is like Project Fugu, there is like CSS and UI, which I am still looking forward to, and there is like the web platform has like Project Fugu, as I've already told. So that was the one that I went with because I had some ideas of the newer APIs on Fugu and the other things. And there is AI. Definitely, I forgot about that. So all of that exists, and you can actually start making your own journey by reflecting onto what things you are usually you really love to do, what things that you code about, that you can maybe write an article about. And that's one article, that one blog post, that one YouTube video just does it for you. That's like everything that you would have to do, and that is like your starting spark. And if that spark turns into that fire, then you would get many opportunities. I also had this opportunity to be like featured by the Google developers on YouTube, and I featured like not once, but I believe twice on that channel, or three times, I would have to check. But yeah, that is like one of the very great advantages. And yeah, there is like nothing that really I would say compete against like becoming a GD at this point for me, because I have really loved about everything I'm doing in GD. I loved it so much that I went for another one. So there was this Google Maps team. I had a talk with them internally when I was a Google developer expert. We had some kind of internal meetings, and haven't I told you that you would also get monthly meetings with like important people who are like Googlers? So you would have to like understand and be very consistent with the web. It's like not, and I would not say that it is a responsibility rather than like just like a privilege. This is a responsibility for you to be demonstrating, and make sure that all year long you are demonstrating those skills, making sure that you are making those posts, making those conversations about like what's new in the web, and you are staying up to date. And that's like best part, because in your career, in your tech career also, you would have to do it. You would have to eventually, you cannot just rely on like old PHP code for the like for your entire life. You would have to eventually switch to something like more than Java applet, something like that. So I would, at this point, I believe that want you to understand, or want you to just I would say reflect onto this. Think about like the things that you want to do as a Google developer expert. And I believe if you have made this long to the video, I'm very sure that you want to be a Google developer expert. That's like the primary reason. Just want to say that there is this one special thing about GD, that it connects you with the developer relations engineer. So maybe at a certain point you would have opportunities to get an interview at Google and become a DevRel engineer. There are many GTs that have become DevRel, and I have seen that happen multiple times. So that's a possibility as well, and who wouldn't love to work at Google? So I would say so that definitely start on this GD journey. It's more difficult in the start, but once you have that whole fire spread, you have like tons of blogs, posts, articles, and people know about you. You're contributing onto GitHub into all the open source stuff. There is a recognition of you. And then when they will read it, they will say, yeah, this guy deserves a product interview. In that product interview, you will get 1 hour. In 1 hour, you would be asked questions that were not totally coding questions. They would be about the latest and greatest things that are being done at Google. Maybe it could be about, like, let's say a project Fugu API. Which one is your favorite? Now tell me about it. Tell me more details about it. How do we initiate it? Something like that. And you would just have to verbally, there is no coding thing, you have to verbally talk about it. And then finally it would be like in at the end of the whole interview, or it could be like after the interview, you'll get a mail that you are selected, and there would be some official proceedings and stuff. And finally you would become a GD, and your name would be here. But not only that, you would be getting all those perks that I have talked about. You would be getting all those trips, perks that you can be a part about, and you have to make really good use of it. So become, I would say, become someone who is more of a person who is making blog, become more of a blogger, become more of a YouTuber, and become more of a, I would say, someone who is advocate for a technology, and become an evangelist first, and then try for the GTE. Have everything ready and be someone who is already doing the things that a GTE does, and then apply for a GTE. And I'm very sure and dead certain that you would get that GTE and you would become a Google developer expert. So yeah, that is all about this video. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments, and see you in the next one. See ya, bye.